This is Asghar Nazir. In this video, we will learn about the if conditions. They are a little different than the normal if conditions or if else conditions. So why do we need if conditions when we already have if conditions and if else conditions? Well, if else conditions are used to check multiple conditions on the same variable and then perform multiple different actions based on that value. So let's say there is a variable and that variable can have many different values, and based on each value we want to perform a different action. This is where we will be needing the if else if conditions. It will get more clear when I will be showing you the demos, so don't worry about right now if you are confused. So what is the syntax for the if else if conditions? We write the if all in lowercase, then put the condition here, and then starting curly bracket, ending curly bracket, and then we write the piece of code that we want to execute. Then we write else, then a space, then another if, and again parentheses, and the next condition, next value, that based on that value we want to perform a different action. Then we write the next else if, another condition, and another action based on that condition. Let me show you the demo so that the things are clear. So let me create a new package and a new class. So here I have written an example with the help of if else if condition. So let me explain line by line what is going on. On line number 6, I am declaring a variable and I am storing a value of 10 inside that variable. Then the first condition that I check on that variable is I check if this is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then I print out the number is positive. So this is the first condition that I am checking on this number variable. Then I check another condition. The next condition that I check if this number is less than 0. If this number is less than 0, then I print out the number is negative. So check out one condition, one output, another condition, another output, another condition, another output. So this variable number, it can have many different values, and if we want that based on some specific values we execute a different piece of code, that's where you should be using the if else if conditions. Single variable, multiple conditions, multiple actions against it. And this is how it works. Java code executes from top to bottom. So first of all, Java will check this condition. If this condition is true, Java will ignore all of the remaining conditions and the program will end. For example, if I print out a line here, program ends. Check this out. If the number is greater than 0, I will see this output, number is positive. Once a condition is true, no more conditions are checked and we directly jump out of that whole if else if block and Java starts to execute the next lines of code. So for example, if I run this code now, I see number is positive because the number right now contains 10. 10 is greater than 0, which means it's a true condition. Again, if else conditions, they work based on the boolean values. So this first condition returned a boolean true, and as soon as we get a true inside this condition, Java executes everything starting from this curly bracket till this curly bracket. So that's why we got number is positive, and then Java did not even check rest of the conditions, it directly executed this line of code. And just to show you that this is really what happened, let me debug this code. Debugging is a process through which we can go through the code in a slow-mo, step-by-step manner. For example, right now if I run this code, it executes super fast and I directly see the output. But what if I want to see line by line how my code is executing? So if I want that, I simply need to place a debug point here and then right click and then click on debug. Now I click on this button that says step over. So first Java checks this condition. If I hover my mouse over, it says the number contains 10 and this condition is true. If I go to the next step, it executes this line and then check this out. It directly jumps to this line. It ignores rest of the conditions. The rest of the conditions are only checked if the first condition fails. If this condition fails, which means we get a false, then this condition will be checked. If this is also false, then this condition will be checked. So this is prioritized. First topmost priority, then the second one, then the third one, and then it keeps on going as long as there are more conditions inside the if else conditions. And that's what makes it different from if else and if conditions. So let me show you one more demo and the things will get more clear. So let me create a new class and let me give another example. So I have written another example with the help of if, else, if conditions, and here I have a variable int in which I am storing the value of the day, what day it is, and then based on that day number, I perform different actions. For example, if the day is 1, I say I print Monday on the console. If the day is 2, I print Tuesday on the console. Again, check this out. This variable can have so many values which leads to so many different conditions, and we want to perform different actions for each of the conditions. That's where you should be using if, else, if conditions. And check this out. This time intentionally let me store 4 here and let me put a debug point here and let me debug this code to show you how things are working. First of all, the first condition is checked. So I click on the step over button and I see that it checks this if day is equal to 1 or not. Again, it's a relational operator. Relational operators, they always return a true or false. Because the value of the day is 4, which is not equal to 1, this condition will fail and Java will check the next condition. Is the next condition true? If it is true, Java executes this code, otherwise it goes to the next condition. So the second condition is also false. So we go to the third condition, then we check the third condition, again false, we check the fourth one. This time we found a true value, we found a true condition, we found a condition that evaluates to true. So Java executes this line, and no matter, even if there are 1 million conditions after this line, after this day is equal to 4, all of those will be ignored and we directly jump out of the program. Java never even check the rest of the conditions. That's how if, else, if conditions work. As soon as one condition is true, even though we have written 1 million conditions, all those conditions are ignored. Java performs the corresponding action, it executes the corresponding code related to that condition, and that's it. It exits and it starts executing the code after this if, else, if block. So that's how they work. One condition is executed at a time, and the moment that condition is true, we ignore everything else and then we end the program. And it happens from top to bottom. The topmost priority is given to the condition number first, then second, then third. And as soon as we find something that evaluates to true, that's it. Java goes and ends the program. It starts to execute the next lines of code. For example, so I have written a line, last line after if, else, if. So you will notice as soon as it executes the Thursday, when the condition 4 becomes true, it ignores the rest of the conditions and we get this last line. So let me run this and we see Thursday, and after Thursday we see the last line of if else conditions. So it's exactly the same like if conditions work. If conditions or if else conditions, they work based on boolean values true or false, and whatever code returns a boolean true or false, we can place that code inside these if conditions. We write if in lowercase, then condition, starting curly bracket, ending curly bracket, then else. After the else, we have a space, then if day is equal to 2, next condition, and then we repeat ourselves. And let's say we want to write something. Let's say we want to perform an action when none of these conditions are true. That might also be possible. For example, if I store the value 8 or 9 here, and now if I run this code, none of the conditions will be true. So what will happen? In that case, nothing will be executed. If I want to execute something just like if else conditions, when the if condition fails we execute the else path, we can also have the else part here. I can write else and then I can write not a valid day. So now if someone writes, if someone puts a number which we are not checking here, then this else part will be executed. If a condition matches here, then that part is executed, rest is ignored. Otherwise, this last part is executed. So not a valid day and then last line of code. Now, some of you might ask that, hey Asgar, why we use if else if conditions when the same can be achieved by just writing if conditions? And that's possible. So let me show you a demo and let me show why you should be using if else if conditions. So let me create one more class and let me rewrite the same exact code with only if conditions. So I have written the same exact code with if else if conditions and with simply if conditions. And if I run this code on the right side, let me show you, we get the same output Thursday, last line of code. And if I run the code on the left side, we get the exact same output. And this is how the code looks like. A lot of the students, they get confused that why we should use if else if conditions when the same can be achieved with the if condition. Let me show you why you should be using if else if condition. So let me store the number 1 here and let me show you this code step by step in slow-mo. So let's first check this code on the right side. So I place the debug point here, then I right click and I click on debug. So we use the step over button, we say step over, the first condition is checked and we get Monday. Although we have got Monday, Java will still check the rest of the conditions. It still checks the day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. Although it's not possible for a variable to have multiple values at the same time, it can have only one value at one time. Still, Java performs these unnecessary steps which slows down your computer, and that's the reason we should not use if conditions, even though we can achieve the same results by just writing if conditions. Let me do the same with this code towards the left and you will realize that this code has executed almost all the conditions, but this program on the left, it will just execute 2 statements and the program ends. The moment the first condition is true, it ignores the rest of the things. Even though there are million conditions, it executes the last line and the program ends. That's it. This program on the left, it is only taking 2 steps to achieve the same results, but this program on the right, it is taking 8 steps to perform the exact same output, to give the exact same outputs. That's the reason why we should not use if conditions when we have to check multiple conditions, and against those multiple conditions we have to produce multiple outputs. I hope this helps. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.